are you or DHS doing anything to comply with the 9-0 Supreme Court order to facilitate his return to the United States? Just yes or no.
This administration is following all federal court orders.
Madam Secretary, this is a simple
question. It's the president's prerogative on conversations that happen
Chair,
with the president of El Salvador.
I ask a simple question. We have a limited amount of time. I just asked you, Madam Secretary, whether or not you or the Department of Homeland Security are taking any action to facilitate the 9-0 Supreme Court decision to facilitate his return. This is a very simple question. Are you taking any action to facilitate his return, or are you not?
This administration is following and complying with all federal court orders
to
make sure that we.
So you are because the court ordered that you facilitate his return. So you are facilitating his return.
Senator Van Hollen asked a yes or no question about a unanimous Supreme Court order. Instead of an answer, he got accusations. This clash wasn't about one man. It was about whether the government has to follow the Constitution when the courts say so.
Sir, Senator, thank you for the question. But what I would tell you is that we are following court orders and that your advocacy for a known terrorist is alarming to me.
Madam Secretary.
It's alarming to me because he's a human smuggler.
Madam Secretary, I'm going to have to reclaim
a terrorist, and he's not a U.S. citizen. He's a citizen of El Salvador, and he's home. If he were to come back
Madam
here,
Secretary,
we would take him immediately.
All right,
back
I'm going to have to, Madam Secretary, you should know a couple facts then, which is, number one, in 2019, the immigration court said that he should not be returned to El Salvador because it would put his life in danger. The Trump administration at the time did not appeal that decision. After that, he got a work permit and was working legally in the United States of America. This is also why the district court and the appellate court and the Supreme Court have ruled as they have. I suggest that rather than make these statements here, that you and the Trump administration make them in court under oath, because despite what you just said, the federal district court whose judge is hearing this case right now said, and I'm quoting, that the administration has provided no evidence linking Abrego Garcia to MS-13 or any other terrorist activity. I'm not vouching for the man. I'm vouching for his due process rights.
Sir. You've
no,
been vouching
no,
for
Madam
him.
Secretary, with
respect.
respect.
I would suggest that you defend and stand alongside the victims of illegal crime.
This is political rhetoric.
The citizens who live here and are United States Americans. I would suggest you advocate for them as hard
Madam
as
Secretary,
you do for terrorists.
I know you're doing a political speech here.
I'm
I
not,
get it.
sir.
I'm asking questions of law. No, you're just spewing rhetoric.
I truly believe this. I
Well, you're
truly believe
spewing
this
rhetoric.
as an
Let me ask
American.
you this. Do you agree with Justice Scalia in the Supreme Court opinion in Reno v. Flores that, I'm quoting, "It is well established that the Fifth Amendment entitles aliens to due process of law in deportation proceedings." End of quote.
Sir, we are utilizing every due process tool that this Congress has afforded us. The Congress decides what due process is appropriate for every situation. Expedited removal is a due process that you have afforded us that we are utilizing. The Alien Enemies Act.
I'm going to reclaim my
tool that
time,
we're
Madam
utilizing.
Secretary.
So we are giving due
Madam
process
Secretary.
and using the tools
Madam
that
Secretary,
this Congress has given us.
this is really, I'm asking sort of simple questions of law and simple questions like, are you complying with the 9-0 Supreme Court decision? And you seem to think that's some kind of trick question. Let me ask you this. You were down at CCOT in El Salvador, and you said, and that I'm quoting, "It is one of the tools in the toolkit that we will use." And it's well known that the Trump administration is paying the government of El Salvador to keep these individuals, including those who the U.S. courts have determined were illegally taken out of the country in violation of their due process rights. Have you seen the grant document between the United States and the government of El Salvador with respect to the CCOT?
It's important that everybody knows the consequences of what happens for their actions in this country. When you break the law and you're a member of a foreign terrorist organization,
Secretary, I asked you a question. Have you
consequences
seen
to
the
that.
document? This is not hard.
Yes, I have.
Okay. And what are the provisions of the doc? So do you know what entities in El Salvador are receiving the funds?
I'm sure you can see this document as well and have looked at it for evaluation.
I'm glad you raised that, Madam Secretary, because I sent you a letter along with many of my colleagues here on April 8th asking for, among other things, that document. Will you respond to the letter that we sent?
I will respond to your letter.
Thank you. Can I get some sense of when?
We will take a look at it. I don't remember seeing your letter yet, but I will certainly take a look at it.
Well, it's been there over a month.
The senator's time has
No,
expired.
Madam Chair.
Senator Kennedy?
Madam Chair.
Madam
The
Secretary.
Secretary, I have some additional questions.
No,
related
sir, that's up
fire
to you
academy.
to manage that time. Senator Kennedy?
Madam
Well, I
Secretary.
need a little help from a chair that respects the members of the
Madam
committee. I'm sorry, Madam
Secretary.
Chair. This is
What unfolded between Senator Chris Van Hollen and DHS Secretary Kristi Noem is a textbook example of how constitutional questions can get buried under political rhetoric. Van Hollen's opening was deliberate and narrow. He did not ask for opinions about Kilmar Abrigo Garcia. He did not ask the secretary to defend or condemn the man. He asked a single legal question. Is the Department of Homeland Security taking steps to comply with a 9-0 Supreme Court order requiring the government to facilitate Garcia's return to the United States? That word matters. Facilitate does not mean endorse. It does not mean grant legal status. It means take affirmative steps to comply with a court order. Courts choose that language precisely to avoid ambiguity. When an order is unanimous, the expectation of compliance is at its highest. Instead of a direct answer, Secretary Noem repeatedly substituted a general assurance that the administration follows court orders, and then escalated by labeling Garcia a terrorist and accusing Van Hollen of advocacy. That pivot is significant. It shifts the discussion away from compliance with the law and toward the character of the person involved. Van Hollen responded by grounding the exchange in the record. He cited prior immigration court findings from 2019 that barred Garcia's removal to El Salvador because it would endanger his life, a decision the Trump administration did not appeal. He also referenced findings by the Federal District Court, Appellate Court, and the Supreme Court, all of which concluded that the government had not produced evidence linking Garcia to MS-13 or other terrorist activity. Here is the most important line of the exchange. I'm not vouching for the man, I'm vouching for his due process. That distinction is the heart of constitutional governance. Due process exists precisely to prevent the government from bypassing courts based on accusations alone. It applies to citizens and non-citizens alike, a principle the Supreme Court has affirmed repeatedly, including in Reno versus Flores, which Van Hollen cited for the proposition that the Fifth Amendment entitles non-citizens to due process in deportation proceedings. Secretary Noem's response leaned heavily on statutory tools like expedited removal and congressional authorization, but that argument sidesteps the immediate issue. When the Supreme Court issues a specific order in a specific case, agency discretion yields to judicial authority. Congress defines procedures, courts decide cases. That separation is not optional. The exchange also revealed a second oversight issue, transparency. Van Hollen pressed Noem about agreements with El Salvador related to detention facilities and payments, documents he and other senators formally requested in writing. Noem acknowledged seeing the documents, but could not or would not describe their provisions on the record, and she had not yet responded to the letter. Oversight does not end with policy slogans. It requires production of documents so Congress and the public can evaluate executive actions. What viewers should take away is this: the dispute is not about immigration preferences. It is about whether the executive branch can comply in form while resisting in substance. Saying, "we follow court orders," is not the same as demonstrating compliance when asked directly what actions are being taken. In a constitutional system, accusations do not replace evidence, and rhetoric does not override rulings. When courts speak unanimously, agencies are expected to answer plainly and act accordingly. That expectation protects everyone, because due process only works if it is applied consistently, especially in hard cases. If you believe court orders should be followed, not debated on cable TV, stay with Liberal Lens. Subscribe, share this analysis, and keep watching how oversight tests the line between power and accountability.